BNB Man is back.
Oh, oh my gosh, the man got messed up. This is a 5 out of freaking 5.
It is beat making time.
Next week is E3 week. My album comes out next week.
I have the leopard. You know what I'm saying? That's true. You know what I'm saying? But oh, look at that. Oh my God.
This is your boy. All right, ladies and gentlemen of the YouTube citizens, y'all know who this is. This is your boy Dash the True Inferno. Back at it with another Pokemon Unite commentary video for you guys, and I called it. August 14th, 2019. So the funny thing about that video, when I dropped that video, I was in Japan when I dropped that video, but that was a Kingdom Hearts 3 commentary video that I recorded days in advance before I went to Japan. So that was a pretty interesting video. But what were we talking about? Back then, we were talking about Google Stadia. I said in that video that Google Stadia was going to fail because how everything was set up, it was not good, and we just wasn't ready for cloud gaming. I said that back then, and I'm saying it now. We're not ready for cloud gaming. So let's get back on topic. Let's talk about Google Stadia. Can we just announce that it's failed? Like, can we just like come out and just say Google Stadia failed? So why not say that? So let's talk about, you know, what happened when this was announced and like the months leading up to its release. So Google Stadia, if you got the 7020p version or the 1080p version, which was coming out in 2020, it would be free. But if you wanted the 4K version, which came out first in 2019, that one was going to be $10 a month. Now, there was technically 2.5 things wrong with Google Stadia. The half was the controller, being that it's $70. Now, you're probably going to say, well, wait a minute. You know, the PS5 is 70 controller, the Xbox probably 70, you know, 60, 65, 70, whatever the case may be. And the Joy-Cons are 80. Well, the Joy-Cons, you can split them up and give the other half to your friend, say, yo, play this game with me, and boom. It's basically 2 controllers in one. So you can do that. So that's different. Now, the reason why I say it's a help is because the Google Stadia controller, that's a good looking controller. I ain't gonna lie, I said that back then, and I'm looking at it, you know, right before I started recording this video, it's still a good looking controller. I ain't gonna front, it's a good looking controller. Now, aside from the half, let's talk about the 2 reasons why Google Stadia was a fail. And I knew Google Stadia was gonna be a fail back then. 1, look at, like, I showed the graph back then in that video. The link to that video will be in the description box below, rather. So, it says Stadia supports a range of resolutions and internet speeds. So the minimum, the recommended minimum, was at 10 megabytes or 10 megabits, however you want to pronounce it, 10 megabytes per second. And that was that around the 720p range, where you get 60 FPS and you got stereo surround sound. You know, so the lowest was at 5 megabytes per second. The recommended minimum was at 10. Then around 15, 20, 25, you got 1080p. And that one would be the HDR video with 60 FPS and 5.1 surround sound. And then from, you know, 2.5 all the way up to 3, not 2.5, but 25 to 30 megabits per second, which is the best, you're looking at 4K. That's the $10 a month joint right there. So that one is HDR video, 60 FPS, 5.1 surround sound, same as 1080p. The only difference is 1080p, 4K, and the mega speeds, megabytes per second rather. So again, that was per second. So the math was done in that video, and basically, if you went with the 4K and you using 35 megabits per second, you're looking at, I think it was slightly over 2 days or under 2 days. I forgot the exact number, but that's how much. And you have a data cap. Remember, you know, not everybody have unlimited, but if you had a data cap of, like, let's say 1 terabyte, you were only going to use Google Stadia, nothing else but Google Stadia at 4K, 35 megabytes per second, like around 2 days. And after that, boom, you're at your cap. If it was like 1080, I think it was like around 5 or 6. 720, it was slightly over 9. And I'm like, that's not enough. So that's the issue. So the data cappers was going to experience this issue. Unless you have unlimited, then you could get away with it. Now, another reason why I knew this was going to fail was because of the fact that they went to the pay full price for the new games. So NBA 2K22 came out a month ago, month and a half ago, whatever the case may be. That game is $70. Now you can go to GameStop, pick the game up, have a physical copy of the game, meaning it is legit yours. You can do whatever the heck you want with it. You can, put in your system, you play it. So whatever the case may be, download the game. You pay for the digital version. You download the game. It's yours because it's in your system. You can still play it. Blah blah blah. The only thing is, if you're sick or tired of playing it, want to get rid of it, you can't sell it because it's not a physical copy. Whereas with the physical copy, you can say, hey, y'all, I'm going to sell this to you for $20, whatever the case may be. You can't do that with the digital version, but it's still yours for you to play from this point going forward, no matter what happens. Now, Stadia, on the other hand, if you pay $70 for NBA 2K22 on Stadia, you're not getting a physical copy. You're not even downloading the game. You're paying $70 just to go into Google's hardware so you can access the game to play it. So if the hardware goes under, you can't do that anymore. Even though you pay $70 to do that, but if the hardware goes under, if Google Stadia shut down, you can't do that. You can't access their servers or their hardware to play NBA 2K22, even though you paid $70 to do just that. If Google Stadia goes under, and you ain't getting your money back. So these are all reasons why Google Stadia, I knew was going to fail. So what happened since then? Nobody jumping on board with the Google Stadia. The PS5 dropped. Back then I called it the Xbox Anaconda. We finally got an actual name for it. The Series X and the Series S, they came out. So, and people are still trying to get those systems. That's a whole crazy scenario right there. And Stadia has been falling off. And then to make matters worse for them, people who are a part of the team has been leaving. Left and right, up and down, or around. So here's an article from Massively, okay, I'm going to butcher this name, MassivelyOP.com, MassivelyOP.com. And it says, yet another top Google Stadia executive has left the project. And this joint came out September 23rd of this year. If you were thinking that eventually the long of bad things happening to Google Stadia was eventually going to run out, well, you're probably right, but the day is not today, the day this article drops. Following the loss of its VP, I'm assuming that's vice president, and head of production last spring, and the closer of its internal games division at the top of the year, Stadia has now lost its director of games. As ZDNet reports, Jack Busser has been on the Stadia project for more than 5 years, and as the director of games has been responsible for recruiting developers and publishers to the platform and setting up those partnerships. But he's moving elsewhere within Google now. He'll be Google's Cloud's director of global gaming solutions, which might just be a hint about the company's shifting ambition and attention. Google spun the move as a positive one, touting the fact that it's now adding 200 games to the platform. A rep for the company says Buster will, and I'm quoting here, help open doors for broader strategic partnerships with customers across YouTube, Stadia, and more, end quote. General Manager Phil Harrison will continue on to lead Stadia as it is now. So they might well just pull the plug on Stadia. And here's another issue that I didn't even think about back then, but I was introduced to it recently, naturally. And that is this, the lagging. Lagging is going to be an issue. So what happens is, again, this is a streaming service. So as I talk about how you're paying just to play the game, you're not owning the game. So when you go to GameStop or Best Buy or Myers, Target, Walmart, whatever, to pick up a physical copy of the game, whenever you press the button, the reaction speed will be quicker because it's right there. And this is especially true when you're playing like a first-person game that don't require online multiplayer. It don't require that. So the reaction speeds will be much better. Now, when you're playing online, whether it's online or whether you got a physical copy or a digital copy, there's going to be a little bit of a lag because the reaction speed, you're going for the button to the server, to the online server, so it could, register throughout whoever is playing with you, whatever the case may be. But in this case, we're talking about You pushing a button, it goes to the game, which is inside of Google's hardware, and then got to come back to your TV to say, oh, we got it registered, now we're going to perform the action. So long story short, if I wanted to punch, if I was playing off of the disc, it probably going to take 0.1 seconds for my character to throw a punch. If I was playing online, whether with the disc or with a digital version, if I press the punch button, it probably going to take 0.3, 0.5, maybe 0.10 seconds for the character to actually throw the punch in response to me pushing the button. But if I'm playing it off of Google Stadia, which is a streaming service, it's probably going to take 0.50 seconds, maybe 1 second for my character to throw that punch as a response to me pushing a button. You know, it's the lag will be an issue. So if you can't use Stadia rather to play competitively, that's not an option. That really ain't. That's the new move, as you know, as people call it. So can we say that Google Stadia failed? And if anybody got Google Stadia, because there's like some bundle that costs $130 where you get a bunch of stuff. That to me is a waste of money. If you're paying $10 a month on Google Stadia, to me, that's a waste of money. Oh, guys, if you actually bought a new game on Google Stadia, like you had literally paid $60 or $70, you definitely wasting your money. Because I don't care what Google says, Stadia is a fail, and sooner than later, it's going to go under. So if you actually put money on Stadia, you ain't getting it back, and they're not going to keep it alive just because you put money into it. That's not how it works. They're going to take your money and say, oh, well, sucks for you. And that's it. They're going to run away with your money if you bought Stadia, if you put money on Stadia, if you do anything with Stadia. So Google Stadia, to me, it failed. I knew it was going to fail, and it failed. And it actually fell a long time ago. So that's my thoughts on that. And I'm going to call it a wrap. So with all that said, y'all know who this is. This is boy New J Gatsby, a.k.a. New Stimulate Smith, saying peace out, y'all, and I'll see y'all next time. Yeah.